How's everybody doing? Still got some energy? I know it's the last couple hours. Got lots, but still gotta have the energy. My name is Kurt Kaplan. I'm the senior programmer and I work for the Blood and Snow Canadian Film Festival. We have a booth over in the actual main showroom. We've been running films and panels upstairs all weekend. We are proud working with these guys for the Fall Sport Fest, but at the same time, I'm also a professional moderator, and I've been moderating a bunch of panels for these guys all weekend. So I'll be your moderator for this panel today with Team Cain. So, I'm assuming, are you guys ready? You guys ready? All right. Just had the pleasure to meet him out back. He's really excited to be here. He's got a lot of energy. Really wants to talk to you guys. So, without any further ado, I give you Superman, Team Cain.
Thank you guys for being here. It's awesome.
It might be useful to grab this one handhold because apparently you got to keep it a little bit closer here so they can hear you.
I don't want to break anything.
So
I've been known to break things before. I'm not
perfect. So how this is going to work, guys? I'm going to talk with Dean for a little bit. So
false.
Yes.
Sorry.
Fair enough.
I'm not playing right now.
Okay. Once I'm done, we're going to have plenty of time for your guys' questions because I know that's why you're really here. We're going to have a microphone right over there. So you guys will be able to queue up. I'll let you know when to start. And we'll go from there. All right?
How about a big round of applause for Kirk doing it all weekend?
Thank you.
I want that hair too. Serious really love the hair.
So, I mean, I think we should start towards the beginning, which,
Yeah, I was born about Clement, as you know. I like Michiganders.
It's my girl. If we want to go that far back,
I didn't know how far back.
I was just going to say that the reality, the first thing I remember you from, and the first kind of big thing that I think you were associated with was probably Beverly Hills 90210.
Ah, yes. Yeah. Well, how many people were alive when that first one was on? Okay, all right. That's good.
And you had an arc during season 3, which must have been interesting because it was probably one of the most watched shows on television. But by that point in time, all of the backstage stuff that was going on was getting into the tabloid and just the legitimate news. What was it like on that? What was it like on that? Like going into that show? What was it like working on that and that type of atmosphere?
Well, fortunately, I had already grown up within the industry. So my father's a film director, writer, producer. So I grew up around kids like Sean Penn, Chris Penn, Rob Lowe, Charlie Sheen, Billy Estevez, all those guys. So I'd seen them as I went to college. Those guys who rose to fame. My dad actually directed a bunch of them in a film called Young Guns. And he produced that as well. So I watched a lot of these kids go out and do their thing, and I watched them make some pretty good-sized mistakes as well. So I saw all that happen, and there's the kids that I knew since I was a kid, like a kindergartner. So I was a little more prepared for what I was to see on 90210 than maybe if I had just sort of gotten into the business then. I got there and did the show. It was one of the most watched shows on television at the time. I didn't realize it was season 3 until you just told me. Thank you. I appreciate that. And it was great. You know, I learned one of my most valuable lessons on that show because I had been doing the show, and most of the stuff I had done was with Brenda, Shannon Doherty, and it was away in Paris. So when we came back in to do shows that were happening in like Los Angeles, then I finally got to meet the rest of the cast. Yeah. And one of the first things that happened was Luke Perry sees me, and I thought he was gonna be like, Cole or some other dude trying to come on the show. Instead, he was like, "Hey, nice to meet you. I'm Luke. I love what you're doing on the show. Thank you so much for being here. And we really appreciate what you're doing." And then I met Jason Priestley shortly thereafter. Same thing. Total professional. Hey, thank you for coming on the show. Awesome. So I use that every single time I'm on any show, or if it's my show, or Lois and Clark, or anything. Someone comes to guest star on your show. They make your show better, and it's a wonderful thing. So I thank them for being on the show. It's a really valuable lesson. Something that I continue to this day.
The reality of the fact is, as you say, just a simple thank you or that pat on the back in Hollywood is something that is grossly underappreciated for a lot of people.
It doesn't happen that often either.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, it doesn't. And just to address the tabloid things we're going, I heard some things happen while I was there. I heard some yelling and some screaming and some bits and pieces, and I'll never tell. But But that happens on the show. And I'll say this for young actors getting famous at a young age, it's a difficult thing to handle. You look at what happens to a lot of social media stars and people now, it sort of takes over your life and becomes a thing. And, it's not real. One of the things my dad, first of all, when I said I was going to be an actor, he said 3 very, very, very smart words. He said, "Don't do it." And as any kid knows, you don't listen to your parents, right? Okay. So I didn't listen to him, and I went and did it. But what he didn't want me to do was be involved, in the scrutiny that comes with being on screen, and the middle of all that, the lack of anonymity, and you lose that. And today, that just exists for everybody. If you have an Instagram account or a Twitter account or something like that, you lose that anonymity. And I have to watch it very carefully with my son, who's almost 18, and what he's been going through. And I imagine it's even worse with my daughter. But being famous and young can lead to all sorts of issues and all kinds of problems. If you read that good press, oh, so and so is the most sexy person in the world, and this, and you start to believe it, suddenly you get taken down by the press, and it's just very painful. So a lot of those guys didn't have anything to fall back on, or didn't have a support system in place, and so that can be very painful for young actors.
Absolutely, and nowadays, obviously, the word famous means something completely different than it did before.
Truth.
So shortly after that, you do get the call for Lois and Clark, and I gotta wonder, because basically you're the first person stepping into the shadow that Christopher Reeve has left for that character.
And oh, what a shadow.
Exactly. Did you at any point in time just almost walk away and was like, no, you know what I mean? Were you intimidated by the role? Because Lord knows I would have been.
No, I never walked away from it and never was intimidated by it because of what it was.
Cool.
Now, my Superman was Christopher Reeve. I still think he's the greatest Superman of all time. When I think of Superman, my head goes to Christopher Reeve. And, when I had the chance to go and read for the role, it was different. It was already about Clark.
Yeah.
And Superman was the disguise that he used to do these things, but Clark was the character, and they had made it that way. So I didn't feel no offense to Christopher Reeve, I love his Superman, but the bubbling Clark Kent thing was too much for me. I know what they were doing, I get the whole story, but I preferred it to be more of the George Reeves version of Clark Kent, where he's a regular guy, and a guy you go, okay, he's pretty cool.
And I'm sure everybody remembers the fateful pinball scene in Superman 2, and you're like, yeah.
What was the pinball scene?
When he got beat up in the Niagara, when he lost his powers and then went back to
by what's the guy, the fish guy, what was his name? Seabass?
Exactly. So,
I'd be honest, I wanted to kick Seabass. So it breaks your heart, and that's a thing. But he was the greatest Superman. I didn't feel that pressure though, because we felt the pressure because it was a series, a television show, and coming onto a show, and nobody had done Superman in a long time. We were worried that it was going to be terrible, and people wouldn't like it. And I, as an actor, to carry a series for the first time, I hoped that people would like me. I could have been roundly rejected, and that would have been awful. Fortunately, it turned out to be a good pairing and good chemistry and a great show. I'm so proud to still be involved in people. 90% of the people that I meet at the Comic-Con will be because of that show. I embrace it, and I thank everybody for coming out. So thank you.
yeah. Probably the main reason why I was on the air for as long as it was because of the chemistry between you and Terry. I mean, was that something that was evident to you from the very beginning?
If I knew how to put chemistry on screen, I'd be the greatest casting director on the planet. You never know. In fact, you can get real couples that come on and they would do this thing together, and people are like, oh God, no chemistry on scene. Oh gosh, that's terrible for a real life couple to have that. Not that I would name any names like Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman or anything like that. I'm not going to say anything like that, but it's a weird thing. So finding that chemistry is a hard thing to do. Fortunately, our exec producer was a guy named Robert Butler, who was known as the pilot maker. The guy was unbelievable. He did Hill Street Blues and all sorts of other things, and he really took time to put it together. I had read with a whole bunch of different Lois Lanes beforehand, and Terry, I was cast on a Thursday, and then I had to read with a bunch of Lois Lanes on a Monday. The whole process is a long process. That would take me the entire time to explain it here. And probably half of you have heard it before from me, Heather. But when I finally came down to it, the last day was 10 Lois Lanes that had come through the door, burst through the door, inebriated, kissed me on the mouth, and then prepared to try to seduce me for the whole scene. So I did that 10 times in a row, 10 different actresses. It was just awful. And the final one was Terry Hatcher. She had been in network with me, but I had never been paired with her.
Yeah.
They did a lot of chemistry things, they were readings, and then she came in and she was the best for the job. She was the best actress, and I thought she was the best kisser, but I was the only one. She was a great kisser, for those who are wondering. She was a fantastic kisser.
So just a nice little bonus.
It's a bonus. Listen, it's important. Those of you who are, right? You guys gotta like to kiss each other. It's important. It's important.
Another actor that you get to work with on the show that I absolutely love is the highly underrated Nathan Lane.
Yes, well, I didn't kiss him.
I get that you guys didn't have many love names.
I would. I'm an actor.
Were you able to leech off of him and like learn from him and while you're on the course of that show?
Listen, when you're working with a guy like when you have Lane Smith, when you have
I said the wrong name.
I know. I quietly corrected him, but when you have a Lane Smith, someone who's been around, done that much, it's great. I learned early on being the son of a director, and the first film I ever did was opposite Robert Duvall. You know what I mean? And I was a little kid who didn't know how to act, but I watched him do things. And then you just watch these guys who are fantastic actors, and you ask questions. I'll ask questions, and then I'll shut my mouth and I'll listen.
Yes.
And it's the same thing when I got to do Las Vegas with James Caan, people like that. We had Tony Curtis come on. We had Raquel Welch. If these guys want to tell stories, I am going to listen and try to take that in. And they earned their spot, and Lane earned his spot and all his respect because he had done so many things. Watching him work was very interesting. Great guy, rest in peace. He passed away, but he was an unbelievable guy, funny and nice. And, I was just a kid, and he gave me great advice. John Shea, great actor, and we had great actors. Terry Hatcher is the best Lois Lane that has ever played Lois Lane, in my opinion. And no disrespect to others. And rest in peace, Margot Kidder, who just passed away recently. She was fantastic, but I think Terry was the best Lois Lane of all time.
I think it's pretty much neck and neck with Terry and Margot, to be honest with you. I don't think anybody else is going to close. So.
Yeah, well, my opinion, that's put Terry on top, and she was great. Because, as Clark Kent said, I think season 1, she likes to be on top. I said that on the show. It was okay. We had to play with a lot of double entendres in that show. And we did well. But she was fantastic.
So, years later, and they're launching Supergirl.
Decades later.
I was, again, we were going softly with that. But then they give you a call, and they want you to come on and basically play the father figure for Supergirl and the actual father of Alex, her sister. That must have kind of felt very full circle type fulfilling for you.
First of all, I was too young to have a daughter that old. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, it's not actually. I very well could have. No, I was very happy. Greg Berlanti, who was one of the exec producers.
Yes.
The guy, he's done. He has Arrow and Flash and DC Legends tomorrow and like 9 other shows on the air. I was in his first film ever called The Broken Hearts Club that he directed and wrote, and sort of his story when he came to Hollywood and what he did and went through. And it was a great thing, and we became great friends. So he was the big boss on that show, and I was very happy when they called and said, you should play her dad, or would you play her dad? I thought it was great. In fact, I was kind of waiting and hoping for the call because I embrace having been part of the Superman legend, the genre, and I will always embrace that. Zod. I knelt before Zod yesterday, by the way. I want to make sure he realizes I will always embrace Superman.
You may also not know, but Zod's apparently running for the premiership in Ontario right now.
All right. He may very well win. I've seen this movie before. So I embrace that, and I think it's a fantastic thing. So
absolutely. So I can ask one more question, guys. But if you guys want to start lining up to ask some questions, you can hop up there. But my last thing before we get into some of these questions from these lovely people is you have basically become probably the hardest working person in showbiz. Your IMDb page is crazy. What is your key? What is your secret? What is your key to being that active, and maintaining the high level of working that you have for decades?
Honest to goodness, the way to do that is to say yes, and I say yes a lot. There's no movie that's too small or too big. I've done films of all sizes. Part of it has also been I'm a single father, so my son turns 18 in 8 days. He just graduated from high school, and I want to make sure that I'm not an absentee father. I was lucky enough to be adopted when I was a kid. My father was my greatest role model. He kept me on the straight and narrow, where I may have veered off here and there, so I was very fortunate to have him as my father. I named my son after my adopted father. And my whole thing is look, Michael Cain said it really well somewhere way back in the day. He'd done an Oscar-winning film, he won Best Actor or something like that, he was nominated. And then he made a silly comedy or something like that. And somebody said, why would you go and make this silly comedy after making this great, wonderful piece and where you got nominated? He said, because I'm an actor. That's my job. So I go to work. So I go to work. And I do, I do all different things. And people will tell you, there's managers and too many people, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen going, no, don't do this, you have to do this. Here's how you should present yourself. Only do these special things, only do this. I think that's baloney, and I think that has changed quite a bit in the past. I find I'm happier and more fulfilled when I make my own decisions and do the things that I want to do. And so I've said yes, I'm doing I've done 17 Christmas movies or something like that. I'm making another one next week in West Virginia.
I wasn't going to mention, but I was looking at it, you did 4 animal-related movies in the year 2015 alone.
Yeah, there you go. See, I have a kid, and when you have children, you always wonder, why is Glenn Close doing this? Why is someone doing this movie? It's because all of a sudden they have kids, and their kids want to see the movies, and they want to be part of that. I think it's amazing. So, I'll do all different things. I say yes a lot, and I do different projects. When friends of mine ask me, hey, will you come over and jump in my movie for a couple of days? My answer, if I can do it, is yes.
Awesome.
And it doesn't matter the size of it. Sometimes it's a silly YouTube thing, and I'll do it because it's fun. I like, dabbling in all things. And ego isn't part of it, and for a lot of actors, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, you sold out, did that. I sold out, did a YouTube clip with my buddy. I don't think I get paid for that, When I did the Daily Show with Tim Daly and Brent Routh and his son Sam Daly, we did a silly thing on the internet. I recorded that on my phone before I went to work that day up in Oregon, and those guys were all in Los Angeles, and it was funny.
Yeah.
And it was one of those good things. It's good-natured, and if you take yourself so seriously, you precious out your work so much, I think you're going to have a hard landing in Hollywood.
And it's great to hear that, because I deal a lot with indie filmmakers and a lot of people working in the indie scene. And it's very much like that on the indie scene. It seems that it kind of takes a shift once you get into more of the big bright lights and all that stuff.
It can, unfortunately it can, but I don't pressure it out so much. People tell me don't go host television shows, don't do Ripley's Believe It or Not. That's career death. I was told that was going to be the end of my career. I was like, no, I want to make this show. I think it'd be fun. My company made that show. I was told don't go co-host shows like the Today Show or Fox News or anything. I do that because I like it. And if people don't like it, okay, I'm sorry, but I'm out there and I'll do it in a heartbeat.
If you're getting paid to do something like that, why the hell?
Even if you're not getting paid, if you like to do it, because I'm not getting paid for some of them. I'm quite certain about that.
All right, so let's go to our first audience question.
Do you have any special attachment to this area because didn't you try out for the Buffalo Bills?
As a matter of fact, sir, I did, yes. I have a very special attachment to this area because 30 years ago, 1988, I graduated college and then I had a chance to sign on with the Buffalo Bills. I was a free safety. Mark Kelso was the incumbent free safety. He had a lot of head injuries, and it was a great scheme. I fit into the scheme perfectly, and I just set a couple of NCAA records that still hold. I said it. And so they gave me a shot. I felt really comfortable in the system. I felt like I was going to make it, but I got injured early on.
You missed all the Super Bowl years.
I missed my rookie year. I was a rookie with Thurman Thomas, and he was my locker mate. He wore 34. I wore number 36. So he was right next to me. So he obviously had a pretty good career, Hall of Famer, maybe the greatest running back of all time may have been. I had a shot for that team, and I really felt like I fit. So if I hadn't got injured, I'd like to have made it. We lost our AFC Championship that year, and then the next 4 years were Super Bowl years. I learned a valuable lesson years later, though, which was a sports reporter asked me, "Do you think, had you played and been there, do you think you could have changed, the Bills' fortunes?" And I say, any athlete, any athlete wants to believe that they could have done something. I'd like to believe I was lined up in the wrong area, the ball bounced my way, and I could have changed their fortune and maybe won a Super Bowl. That would have been great. Of course, what was the headline? Cain says he could have changed Buffalo's fortunes. I was like, no, I didn't say that. I said, I wish I could have. So that would have been a great time. I'm actually going to Buffalo tonight. Jim Kelly, who's a friend of mine, obviously, who's my quarterback, has been through some tough cancer things in the last few years, has a golf gala and a whole thing that I'm headed down for tonight. So I'll spend the next couple of days in Buffalo. I love Niagara Falls. Right when they signed me in Buffalo, after they signed me to be a Buffalo Bill, they took me up here to Niagara Falls, and I was like, are you going to sign me and then push me over the edge of the falls? But it's a gorgeous area. I've been back here with my son, Niagara on the lake, and we've done the powerboat thing, and it's beautiful up here. I got a speeding ticket up there, drive slowly, 5 kilometers over. It wasn't very forgiving at all. But it's beautiful up here, and so yeah, I do have a special attachment. Thank you. And heal quickly. He broke his wrist. I didn't do it.
Hi, Dean.
How are you, sir?
So I just talked to you a little while ago. I'm from Buffalo, New York, and like I just want to reiterate, you know, to pretty much everyone here, very few celebrities have the personality like you do. I go to a lot of cons, and the name that keeps popping up repeatedly is Dean Cain, because just your personality, your friendliness, you know, with the audience, and you know, people that come and meet you, it's fantastic. So.
Well, I appreciate that. My mom would be very happy because she hopes you raised a respectful son. I appreciate that, though. But you know, I realize the reason that I can get jobs and do things is because I get fan support, and I really appreciate that from all of you. So thank you very much. Thanks for coming out.
I do have a two-part question though.
Yes, sir.
So really quick, being from Buffalo, I mean, I know you lived there probably for a little while. Duff, well, my first question is, where are you going to get your wings? My second question is, because I know you're doing Jim Kelly's, you know, I moved to Kelly, lived in Buffalo all my life. What charity do you participate in that you value, that comes most to your heart?
Well, I work with tons of different charities because so many things affect your life. My father's a cancer survivor, so I do a lot of things for cancer. I'm a staunch advocate for kids, tremendously so. I'm a big supporter of law enforcement and military personnel, first responders. So I do a lot for cancer research. I do lots for kids. I do lots for military and law enforcement. In fact, so much so that I'm joining the police force in St. Anthony's, Idaho, as a reserve police officer on a task force working with kids in bully prevention and anti-suicide and things on the internet. So I'm going to be a reserve officer in about 2 weeks there. So I try and volunteer to all those kinds of causes and lend my time whenever I can to causes like Jim Kelly's. You know, whatever I can do to help and bring awareness to certain things. There's so many things out there that don't have either the funding or the visibility, and so anytime you can add to that, you know, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that, I try and do so. But the truth is, you can do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and not get through everything. So you kind of have to pick and choose. But you know, so I guess the short answer is anything with cancer, anything with kids, anything with law enforcement or first responders or military.
And wings, where are you going?
They're gonna bring them to me.
Like,
where do you think I should go?
People with the Duffs.
9/11.
I don't see right there.
9/11.
The brawl is happening right here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm a big fan of Ripley's Believe It or Not.
All right. See, they told me not to do that show. We wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Do you have any fun stories from working on there?
I have so many fun stories. I mean, so much so. Well, one of the things is, one of the things we couldn't do on the show was show anything of the sexual nature. We used to get tapes that we could have done a whole other show on that. But I
started it up.
yeah, we were gonna do like a Too Hot for TV version. We really were. The medical miracles were unbelievable on that show. I always loved the cartoons or the little things in the comics and the newspaper back when people used to read newspapers. I thought that was pretty cool. I loved the historical artifacts. You know, I told somebody earlier today, you know, when John Wilkes Booth assassinated Abraham Lincoln in Ford's Theater, he did it with a Derringer, jumped out of the box, landed, and dropped his backup Derringer out of his pocket. And it says J. Wilkes Booth on it, and I held that in my hand. So things like that were unbelievable. But there's nothing more unbelievable than just people and what they do. And we had some strange and unusual folks on that show, many of whom I could spend 3 days telling you those stories. But there was great. Half of our shows probably came from India, because there's some odd things going on over there. And there's so many people, there's so much going on, and you know, poverty and things like that certainly unfortunately plays a part in that. But I could go on for days. I mean, it was a great show. I wish it were still on the air. I enjoyed doing it. We had a great laugh out of it, and got a little educated sometimes too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Heidi,
Hello, Natalie.
question for you. I actually got to watch you when you were on a British series called The Jump.
Yes.
And congratulations for coming in second place. I thought you were phenomenal.
Second place is just the first loser. Ricky Bobby taught me that. No,
What was your experience on it?
I absolutely love doing that show. They call it the most dangerous show on television. It really isn't that dangerous. It's dangerous if you're not a skier. Well, I was a skier, so I was one of 4 people who didn't go to the hospital. The other 14 went to the hospital. There were a lot of broken bones, broken ankles, knee injuries, shoulder injuries. It was tough, but most everybody who got injured wasn't a skier. The 4 top skiers, well, 3 top skiers and then a super athlete who stepped in late and ended up beating me by 6 inches on a ski jump. That far. It was just under 20 feet, but it was amazing. I did things that really challenged me, worked hard, had a blast, met some great people. That show was a lot of fun, but they did one more season after that, and then they had to finally stop because they were getting a lot of insurance claims for injured athletes, and I guess that made the money run dry, and that was it. But I really enjoyed that. And I have a home in Europe, so I'm there quite a bit, so it's nice. And my son and I are going to travel out there again in July. So I enjoyed out there. It was a great time. I would do it again.
Good. A quick two-parter. What was your favorite season of Lois and Clark?
Holy smokes. Well, I was hoping it was going to be the 5th season, but we ended up not shooting the 5th season. I don't know. I'd have to go back and really look at it. The whole thing kind of blends together for me when you look back at it, sort of like college does. If you look back, if you did 4 years of college, or because we did 4 years on the show. The Warner Brothers, we lived there for 4 years. When you do a show and you're the lead character, or 2 of the 3 lead characters in my case, I was there 18 hours a day, every day, all day long. So you eat, sleep, and drink, and everything there. So you're gonna have any fun, you're gonna do it in between scenes or just after, because I would get about 6 hours of sleep a night and be right back. It's a grueling process. They kind of blend together, but I know my favorite scene still was the proposal scene where Clark asks her and Lorraine to marry him, and she asks who's asking Clark or that other guy. I thought it was a great moment. Thank you. Hi.
I, first of all, just wanted to say thank you. I started watching Lois and Clark when I was 10. That was when it began.
That's good, because I was already 27. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I have a 2-year-old now, and it's one of the shows that I feel that I'm really excited for her to get older so that I can share it with her, especially because, as you said, Lois Lane, Terry Hatcher, she, I think, is an incredible role model for young girls, and she was definitely for me. So I wanted to say thank you for being a part of that and that experience, because it's something I'm going to be able to pass on, and I'm really excited about that.
That's awesome. And I love to hear that. The most gratifying thing is someone who's put that much of my life and that much of my time into a show like that, because you do that, you live it. When we're shooting the show, you never get a chance to have any fan interactions. There were Comic-Cons that didn't exist. Maybe say that the internet barely existed. And yeah, I know, a long time ago. But it's really interesting when people come up and tell me, listen, that show helped me get through high school, or I was ostracized in high school, and that was the only thing that kind of gave me the strength to get through, or I could identify with this character or that character, or something like that. It was wonderful to hear that, because having a kid who just got through high school and watching the things that he goes through, you see, oh my gosh, you see it every day.
I see it, yeah.
Every day.
I've been showing the episodes to my students, like.
They love you for that. Oh.
Yeah. Well, and I've got the Supergirl in, right? So I'm like, oh, you like Supergirl? You should totally watch.
Like, that's why Supergirl's dad playing Superman.
Yeah,
Stop it.
that question.
But that's wonderful. I love to hear that, and I'm hoping we can get it on Netflix. So because my son doesn't watch television, he flips on Netflix and just starts looking through series. He doesn't care when the series was made. If it looks interesting, he'll watch it. And reboot is another thing. And if we can get a reboot going, I'd love to. I think it'd be a great way to sort of reintroduce the show, is to do maybe 6 or 10 episodes. 25 years later, they're still married. I'd like it to be a happy universe. Happy, they got a couple kids, they have some weird superpowers, stuff is haywire, mayor. It's cool, fun stuff, and I think it'd be really interesting.
That does seem to be the nature du jour right now on TV. I mean, Murphy Brown's coming back next year for crying out loud.
I was a kid when that was the case. No, I think it's great. I'm sorry, there was another question.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. The actual question I had, funnily enough, is actually about one of the other films that you've done, Future Sport, with Wesley Snipes, which I, found as, I was kind of combing through things that you had done after, watching Lois and Clark, and I really enjoyed it when I was younger. And I liked the concept of solving political disagreements with sporting events. And I wonder, with all the problems going around today, do you think that could be a valid method for solving political, like you put, just the North Koreans and the Americans and make them play football?
I think we're going to win that one. So yeah, I think it's a great concept, but obviously it doesn't work in real life. it'd be a fantastic concept if we could do that. War's horrible. I've been to war. I've seen it up close and personal. It's disgusting and horrible and awful. And way too many instances are caught in between. And soldiers are professionals and they do what they're told, and they're really fighting, for somebody else. And it turns out when people get in war, they're fighting for the man next to them or for a cause. Usually it's freedom. Certainly, I like to believe it's freedom. The soldiers and the folks that I know, in the United States and Canadian and elsewhere, I've met everybody in theater. It's been for the cause of freedom and for the freedom for people who are oppressed or who couldn't protect themselves. A lot of these men and women who are serving in the armed forces are the sheepdogs, if you will, and they look out for the people who can't defend themselves. I wish it could happen that way. Never in the history of mankind has it happened that way, and never will it, unfortunately. But it's interesting, I hear a lot of things. I'm a history major. I studied history in college. I love history. I've made a lot of documentaries lately. I'm in the midst of one now. I did a documentary on the Armenian genocide that was so well received that I just recently was in Armenia and was awarded the Order of Armenia from the president of Armenia for bringing awareness to the cause. It's pretty cool to do that stuff. I'm doing one now on the rise of anti-Semitism and the Holocaust denial throughout the world, which I think is really important. So it's nice to be able to do that as well. So when you have a voice and you have access to things and people to tell those stories. And as a history person, I find it fascinating. So Future Sport, a lot of fun, great, certainly fantasy. Wesley Snipes, unbelievable actor, great guy. I'm glad he got out of jail for tax evasion, all that stuff. And he's out. He had fun with that in one of the Expendables movies. And great actor, great guy. That was a backdoor pilot. If that had worked, it may have gone into a series. We shot that in Vancouver. I loved it. It was one of the most fun times I ever had on a show. It was amazing because I really got to skateboard and do that sort of stuff. Although I wasn't doing the flips. That was Slugger. That was Rob. But it was really a lot of fun, and I appreciate that. And unfortunately, of course, political differences can't be solved that way. But it's an interesting concept. And it's good. What do you teach now, by the way?
I'm a history teacher.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
I've actually had 2 Syrian refugees in my class, so I've seen firsthand, what happens when.
Yeah, I've been there. I've been in Syria. I've been with all those refugees. I've interviewed them myself. And the most interesting thing I found about interviewing Syrian refugees from Aleppo was they just want to go home. They weren't trying to go be refugees anywhere else. They just want to go home.
That's what my kids said too.
Yeah, that's the thing that I personally found interviewing them, and it's kind of interesting. You hear all the dialogue about refugees let people in, do this. They want to go home. They want to have law and order where they were born and raised, and hopefully we'll find a way to do that. Thank you. You didn't think I was going to get that serious? Clark, how are you, sir? That's a great outfit.
Feels swell, actually. Thank you for asking.
Thank you very much. All right, well done. He's right back in the 50s. He's still very
Actually, you and Christopher Reeve were childhood heroes of mine. Actually, it's wonderful when people are talking about Superman. The 2 names who are mentioned in the same breath are you and Reeve. And
Well, I humbly thank you for that.
actually, it's one of the things I do is theater. And when you work with theater, you have people who are very vocal. And the biggest thing we've been talking about the last little while is the rise of Justice League, and the DC cinematic universe. And the general consensus has been Superman isn't Superman anymore. And Clark isn't Clark. So I'm wondering what your opinion, if you've seen Man of Steel, you've seen Justice League, because everyone says the same thing. It's not Dean's Superman, it's not Christopher's. I mean, you even worked Smallville in that special episode where you kind of kicked Tom Welling butt 6 ways to Sunday. So
I can do that in real life too. I'm kidding. He's a big guy. He's a nice guy.
But I'm wondering, have we as a society lost what made Clark special? We're still with the all-powerful Superman, but have we lost what made Clark Clark?
That's a very interesting question. I don't think society has lost it. I think the filmmakers have taken a different tact. And I agree with you. I didn't, no offense, I might have snoozed a little bit during Man of Steel. Sorry. Really comfortable chairs. They were really comfortable chairs. Plus, I knew Batman's backstory already. I was like, all right, I've seen all this. I know this stuff. And it's just dark. It's a dark world. And Zack Snyder's a great filmmaker and great iconic imagery, but it's a dark Superman and that whole Jesus figure and that stuff, and the godlike figure. It's okay. I like Superman to be a character of hope and light. I like there to be romance, and I like there to be humor. And none of those things are in that film. You know, when they're fighting, and and I think it was Man of Steel, when he's throwing people through, blasting through buildings, I'm like, 1,000, 1,200 people dead. I'm like, Superman can't have that. He'd risk his life and give it for any of you, anybody. That's what he does. And so I'd like to see a return to that character. I understand what they're doing in great filmmaking, that's fine, but I would say that I just watched Justice League the other day on the plane, and I was underwhelmed. Even with Gal Gadot. I mean, I'll watch her drink a cup of tea and enjoy it. So, yeah, so I was like, all right. And I always call her Gal Gadot, but I heard her call herself Gal Gadot.
Yeah.
I'll call her whatever. I'll
Yeah,
call her
you call her
whatever.
whatever, yeah,
Yes, ma'am. But so I think it's just the choice that filmmakers have made. I'd like to see us get back to that character of hope and light and humor and romance.
I think the thing that's also missing is whimsy. There's always a sense of
What a good word,
whimsy
whimsy.
about that character because he was so wholesome and because he was like the staunch defender.
Well, that's his weakness. That's the one. Superman's greatest weakness is his kindness.
Yeah.
And it never gets played upon in this version. You know. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. You're a good Clark. Speaking of kissers, these guys they're married.
It's allowed in marriage.
That's allowed in marriage. Yes. That's what you get for being so tall.
And other things, but we will get into that.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah, I am a little tall. Can I
Yeah, just underneath a little bit. There. You can raise the thing. Or start take it off. There you go.
I can do a whole stand-up set with Team Cain.
There we go. Do it.
So Lois and Clark obviously ended very abruptly. Has anyone not seen the end of season 4 of Lois and Clark? I don't want to spoil it for anybody. You haven't seen yet? Okay, I won't.
Plug your earmuffs. Earmuffs.
Oh man,
A baby showed up.
A baby showed up, yeah.
Which always happens. It happens to all of us, right? No, baby here. Oh.
So, do you know where the direction of season 5 would have been heading? Did the writers give you any insight into that, or?
No. And I've heard things since. Maybe it was a Kryptonian royalty, and they were gonna, have raised the thing for a little while, and it was gonna raise, it was gonna age rapidly, and maybe they had a teenager on their heads no times, and maybe they'd come back and take it. And, I'm speculating at this point in time, and then maybe Lois and Clark were like, gee, it was awfully nice to raise that kid, maybe we should figure it out. Maybe that would be the case, but I was, we started using some weird devices and a few of the things, and like the frogs and the clones and things. Not my favorite stuff. I wanted them to get married and have to start having kids and continue that same thing, but now you have new things to worry about, and they make up the rules for them having some kids and things like that, and the kids age rapidly and get some sort of superpowers. I'd still like to see that happen in a reboot. I'd love to see that happen. So I don't know where they were going. I can only speculate. And the reason we didn't do the 5th season is because we were picked up for season 5, and it's also the same reason that I didn't steal like half the stuff from the show. I took nothing. I would have taken capes. I would have taken, they'd be like, okay, let's get it. Okay, let's see. Superman comes in here. They're like, we have no more Superman costumes. Where are they? I don't know where they went. Don't get out of my car. Get out of my car. I would have taken everything, but I didn't steal a single thing, or very little, just little knickknacks and stuff. So we were going to do a 5th season, but Terry got pregnant in between seasons 4 and 5, and basically wrote a note. Terry cannot work this year because she's having a baby. It would be detrimental to her health and the health of the unborn child. Signed the doctor, and that was it. It was over, and it was a shocker. But for me, it was kind of liberating too, because it was I get life back in a sense. But I really wanted to finish out the show. I wanted a 5th season. I really wanted to have an ending to it, to wrap it up. It's a really unique experience to have a show like that and to be able to run the arc. There's actors who are lucky enough to have 2 and 3 shows that do that sort of thing. And so I do recognize how special it was, and I really wish we could have finished it up. Maybe we can get it done.
Now, with that being said, last year in Australia at their Comic-Con, you said that Terry actually would be up for doing a reboot. And I was just wondering, I don't know if you guys are on board, I'm pretty sure you would be, but here in Niagara Falls, is there anything we can do as fans, whether it's a petition or something, man, like social media petition, blow this thing up, and let's make it happen, because you still look good for your age, man. I'm not going to say anything about it. What can we do to help, man? Help us help you.
Help us. That's straight. I know exactly. It's Jerry Maguire. I had a kid earlier ask me how old, she said something to us. I go, how old do you think I am? She was probably 7. She's like, 37. I said, yes, I am. Yes, I am. social media is a very powerful tool these days, and to put something out there would be great. And Terry and I did discuss that. I didn't just make up that she said that. She actually said, it would be interesting to see. And we were talking about ideas of what might work and so on and so forth. She was like, they got married and Superman gave them his powers. I was like, no, that's a horrible start. No, maybe they had kids and Lois got a couple superpowers from it in a weird way. It's like, maybe. So
Ultra One was a one-off.
Ultra One was fun though. Yeah, it was fun. And so social media really does play a big part, and people have a lot more power. There's power in numbers. So if people put things on social media, please do it. I'd love to see it happen. I'd like to know at least a year in advance so I can get ready for that. It takes some work, but I'd love to see it happen. I think it'd be fantastic, and I think we need it. And I think in this day and age, it's great with the reboots and the things like that. I mean, for the love of God, if they can do Murphy Brown, they can do Lois and Clark.
Yeah. And to your point as well, look what happened with Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It took 31 hours for that show from being canceled to being on a new network with a new 13-episode run, and it was only because of social media. So you guys have the power now.
I think we can start a hashtag like Lois and Clark reboot. We'll go on tonight. Hashtag Lois and Clark reboot. I'm gonna do it. Just if you guys can join it, it'd be amazing. Let's make it happen.
I will retweet the heck out of you to do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Seriously.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just give me a year.
Hi. Can you talk about your time on Worst Cooks in America?
It'd be a short conversation, but yes, I can.
And God's Not Dead.
Absolutely. Worst Cooks in America. I had a limited amount of time I could do the show, so I kind of knew I was going to be eliminated early on. One of my competitors is here. You might have seen him out there running around if you ever saw the show. I had to cook a dish, and it was sort of your baseline dish. I cook. I'm a single father, so I cook every breakfast, lunch, dinner, every meal for my son I have for 18 years. And, I'm a decent cook. I can actually cook, but you had to set a baseline, and I wanted my baseline to be really low. I didn't know it was that low. It was so low that like, Dad, you're gone. I was like, what? Wait a minute. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. But I had to hang around for another couple days, and I just worked these cooks for more secrets and tips and things. My son was very happy I wanted the show because suddenly his rotating, meals of like 3 became rotating meals of like 12 and different things. And I wanted to try different things, and I learned some basics. It was really cool. Listen, cooking is fun because we're all doing it, we're all eating it, we all enjoy certain things. So it was a lot of fun to do the show. I enjoy that. Well, half the time I'm on the Today Show or something like that, I'm doing cooking segments now anyway. So it's great fun to know something about it. And I would do it again. I would win this time, dang it. And God's Not Dead. God's Not Dead, great little movie. And you make a lot of these little movies, thank you. You make a lot of these little movies and you don't know how they're going to be seen or how they're going to be taken welcome by the public or not. Kevin Sorbo, who, by the way, was the other guy who was up for Superman opposite me. He was blonde. I figured I had that one in the bag. But it was close. It was really close. And so he was producing that, and he was part of the group. And he said, hey, come on and do this. You're not going to like the character much because he's not a great guy. But I enjoyed going down there. They did a nice job with the film. The kid was fantastic, and that's the reason the film. A lot of the faith-based movies, they kind of pound you over the head and sort of preach to you, and people get turned off by that. And this was the kind of film that wasn't doing that. And my character was certainly not very redeemable. But there are so many people out there like that. My son went to a Christian high school, and so the whole high school went to see the movie. A lot of kids knew me, and they were watching me up there. And the girlfriend tells me she has cancer. I say, well, that's too bad because that doesn't work in my plan, and you're gone. They're like, dude, your dad's kind of a jerk. It's like, stop it, exactly. But that's the deal. I mean, but it reached so many people, and you always pray and hope for a film like that. You never know any film you're doing. You never know if it could be a superstar film or a small. You just don't know. Even if you're doing a $50 million film, it could be a bomb, or you can do a little tiny $1 million film or $500,000 film, and it could blow up. You just don't know. So I always try to do my best job, whether it's the Three Doggeteers. I made that one. That's right. But your kids will like it. That's the funny thing. And it appeals to different audiences. And I don't try to pressure it out so much. I'm getting to say yes and do different films. So I was very happy to be a part of that and to watch the success. And I was the only unredeemed character, though. I thought they'd bring me back for one of them and try to redeem me, but I guess not. Now,
Let's
forget it.
Hashtag going to.
Hashtag put Dean to work is what it should be. Thank you very much.
Hi, Dean.
Hi.
Hi, thanks so much for coming here and joining us.
Thank you guys for sticking it out at the very end. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I have two questions. One, I know that you've shot in Vancouver. Have you shot in Toronto, or is that something you'd be interested in doing? Here
I shot about 13 movies in Toronto. I've shot 13 movies in Toronto. I have shot a couple in Hamilton. I have been all through here. Love it. It's a great city. I prefer to visit summertime. It gets a little hot and sticky, but I played football right around the corner from here, so I know it well. And I played college football in New Jersey. I know the East Coast and this area well for the summer times. It gets hot. But I love shooting in Toronto. It's a beautiful city. Great restaurants, great people. I really enjoy it. And I was actually going to move to Toronto and do a series up here. I also was going to shoot a series in Vancouver, but for various reasons of being a father, I couldn't do that. So there's a couple of series that I turned down. But I was quite happy to have been living in either one of those cities, and I would certainly do it again. Do you have a project in mind? Hashtag put Dean to work.
Hashtag put Dean to work, and very possibly Mr. King. And actually, my second question is, as an actress who for the past couple of years have been trying to navigate this crazy world, you were talking about learning from people who have been in the industry and just listening, and I'm here to listen. So if there's any advice, any sage advice that you would give a young actress, then I'm all ears.
Well, I could talk to you for hours about the kind of advice. A couple of things that jump to mind is one of them is you know as an actor when you think you've done something right? You think you've done this is what you take in the role, this is it. You have to believe in that, and you have to believe in yourself. I mean, because there's a joke that goes on, how many actors does it take to play a role? The answer is 100. One actor to do it, 99 to say, oh, I could have done a better job than that. And that's true. I mean, because no matter what, you look at, who was supposed to be cast originally in the film Grease? Because it wasn't John Travolta and it wasn't Olivia Newton-John. It was Henry Winkler and Susan Day. Different movie? Yeah, would be, absolutely. So you don't know. So every actor will bring something different to a role. And, you have to believe in what you do is right. Half the time you go, 99% of the time you go on audition, the answer is going to be no. So you have to have a thick skin and not take it personally. It's really difficult. And acting, there's so much rejection in acting that it has to be a passion for you. You have to have a passion for it. And because you're going to get rejected all the time. And even when you've done it and you think you did a great job, someone's going to tell you suck. Oh, it's terrible. You're terrible. And if you let that affect you, it's a rough ride. So I would say have that thick skin. Don't worry about hearing no. Richard Dreyfuss said something, I believe, somewhere, and I'm going to quote him, but I never read the quote, but I'm going to quote him anyway. Because I did this in my research papers too, it was terrible. What I've heard, he said, every time he didn't get a role, he thought that the people who made that choice were idiots. They screwed up because they should have cast him. And that's a good way to go about it. And I encourage you to do that. And work hard, People are afraid of persistence. Work hard. Hard work pays off. It really does. There's nothing instantly gratifying about this. You hear about these overnight successes. Well, they've been working for 30 years after 20 years, and suddenly they're an overnight success. So keep going, keep working hard, have a thick skin, and don't listen to the word no.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good luck. Good luck. Looking forward to it.
So it looks like we have just a couple more questions, which is good. We'll be wrapping up in a little bit, but we'll get to your questions and then we'll start to wrap.
Well, thank you so much for coming to Comic-Con. You've really made some dreams come true, especially for my husband. It's a really big deal that you're here.
He's a big guy,
Yeah.
by the way. He's a big dude. But thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I just wanted to say that we've talked about Superman so much, the two of us, and we realize that he represents hope to a lot of people and the goodness in people and helping other people. And it's amazing to have that figure in the world. And I'm just curious what Superman's brought to you and to your life is.
Well, it's one of those things, well, first of all, it's one of those nicknames or something you get called that I'll always accept. You walk up and say, hey, Superman. It's not like you're like, hey, idiot. Hey, Superman. I'm like, hey, how you doing? I'm happy to wait for that. It's also tough when you're playing a sport, though, because, it's like, who's going to check Superman? I don't like somebody you're playing basketball and they block my shot. Eat that, Superman! You're not supposed to. I got to hear it. Like, so little White has done it to me a lot, too. And then I'm like, you want to bust out the Urkel? But you know, it's so funny because we'll do that to ourselves. But you know, Superman to me, I mean, the character is more moral and good than I could ever be. It's wonderful to have played the role. Friends of mine joked that when I got the role, they were like, "Dude, you were already Superman. You deserve to play that." It was very nice. You know, playing a role like that is great. I don't feel like I have to live up to his morals in real life. It just wouldn't happen. I certainly can't be Superman in that sense. But to play the character, have people identify with me is an honor. It's humbling. It's silly, but it's great. But I'll embrace it. Listen, if it's on my tombstone, I'm cool with that. You know what I mean? It's all right. There could be worse things on there. You know, and even if I'm not the person who who was all that stuff, at least I tried. You know, so I will take that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I have to ask this one. You're the king of Christmas movies, and I just wanted to know, and I love watching them because it makes my heart feel warm. What's your favorite Christmas movie you've done?
I like Christmas so much that even when I wrote 2 episodes of Lois and Clark, one of them was a Christmas episode. That's how much I like Christmas. And for me, what's so great about Christmas all the time, and to keep the religious aspect out of it, was really my favorite thing was my whole family was always together. Sometimes it was an utter disaster, by the way, and I'm sure it's been for a lot of your families. But when you get your entire family together, it's a really great thing, and you're all sort of under one roof or together in different areas. And you come together, and it's a time for togetherness and joy and love and compassion. It's a great thing. Unfortunately, there's a lot of negative and emotional responses to Christmas because it's a time where you reflect, and a lot of those things happen. And so it's just such a great time and a great place to tell stories. My favorite Christmas, it's Christmas movies that I've done or my favorite Christmas movies? Because my favorite Christmas movie of all time is It's a Wonderful Life. That movie, come on. Yes, that movie kills me. I introduced it to my son this year for the first time because I had never given to watch a black and white movie before this. And I didn't know how he'd react. I thought, he loved it. My brother jokes that I am George Bailey all the time because he specifically likes the part where George Bailey comes home and pulls the top off of the banister, pulls it off, and he's angry, and he says, "Why do we have to have so many kids?" So whenever my brother sees me getting really frustrated, he just busts it out. "Why do we have to have so many kids?" I'm like, "Stop it." Now, of course, my son does that to me. He'll call me George Bailey or something like that. That's my favorite Christmas movie of all time. As far as the ones I've been in, honest to goodness, I'd have to see a list because there's so freaking many. I'm going to make one next week too, so that'll make 212. A lot of things that I hear from people, a lot of people like one called The Three Gifts, which was a Hallmark movie, and it was about these kids and they were adopted. And as someone who's been adopted myself, it has a safe, wonderful, good place in my heart. So it's a pretty cool story. And it had these kids and they wanted to be adopted, and that sets you up for a couple of tears flowing anyway. I really enjoyed that. I can't think of any that jump in there, but maybe you can. You probably know better than me.
I was going to say, my favorite is The Broadcasting Christmas with Melissa Joan Hart.
That-
The banter between you and her was hysterical.
That was great fun. Now, Melissa Joan Hart is an excellent actress, and when you do a show, well, she's done 30 shows. I mean, she's done so much. So working with her was an absolute dream because it was a piece of cake. I mean, she knew every little bit where to stand, where to move, how to say this. She knew her lines, my lines. I knew mine, hers. We knew everything. It was just so easy to work with her. I'd do that again in a second. And it's funny because, I do co-host the Today Show and a lot of other shows. I do that. I play that character. And I see some of those people. I'm not going to name any of them who might be parts of the character that I played. No, I can't do that. But it's really fun. So that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed shooting that because every day was just fun. And it's great fun. When work can be fun, it's outstanding. And it usually shows on camera, on film too.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
Which the rank is best. I still love those. I still watch them every year.
You have kids?
No, I don't.
Do you want some?
So we got one last question.
Hello, Sharon.
Hi, Dean. I know you film movies all over the world. You traveled all over the world. You're just in Israel and Jordan, and I know that was very spiritual with all the biblical history. And you once said like Australia was the only other place outside of the U.S. that maybe you would live. I just wondered, I know you're half or a quarter Japanese. and you haven't been there, but is there any other places in the world that you haven't visited that you'd like to visit? And like, where's your favorite place in the world that you've been?
Well, yeah, I'm fortunate that I get to travel as much as I do, and it's a pretty cool thing in my business. And I mean, I've been to 8 different countries, 9 different countries, 10 different countries, at least this year, 13. Somewhere in the 13 area. I'm a teenager in countries this year. I get to travel a lot, and it's brilliant. Australia was amazing. My son fell in love with Australia too. He's still considering going to college down there. I am sort of attached to my kid, so if he goes down to Australia, goes to work, you better believe I'm going to find work in Sydney right now. Hashtag putting to work. But then just add like hashtag Australia. I'm just going to say. Yeah, so it's gorgeous. The northern beaches of Sydney are so magnificent, like Manly Beach and Whale Beach. It's an area that I grew up in Malibu, California. I was born in Detroit, Michigan. And then I moved to California when I was 3, Malibu when I was 5, and I grew up in Malibu, and I thought, every place is like Malibu, right? Don't we all walk to the beach and hang out with our friends every day? No? I didn't realize that until I got to school in New Jersey, and I was playing football, and it was summertime, and I couldn't breathe. I was like, what's going on? I was in great shape. I was like, I can't, what is this? They're like, what do you mean, what is this? I go, it's so heavy, the hair is so heavy, like, dude, it's called humidity. I was like, I hate it. Can it not happen? And they're like, you better suck it up, buddy. You're in the middle of some humidity here. So I found that, the northern beaches of Australia down in Sydney, it's the same sort of weather. If we have like 2% humidity in Malibu, we're like, oh my God, it's terrible. We don't know what it's like. So I thought that was amazing. I really enjoyed being in the Middle East. I thought Jordan was an absolutely gorgeous country. I'm probably going to be working a lot more in that area. Israel, I fell in love with Israel too. That was amazing. Tel Aviv was fantastic. Jerusalem really does feel like the center of the world. It's unbelievable. People of all different faiths and around there. It's incredible. I felt extremely safe and extremely comfortable. I was welcome to come and into any place and be anywhere. It was great. I loved that as well. I really want to visit Japan. It's so odd that I haven't. I know I still have family that's there. I was never knew the Japanese side of my family. It was unfortunate. My dad was my biological father was the farthest thing from the kind of father that I am, or that I was fortunate to be raised by. Maybe he's my example of what not to be. So I haven't been able to be over there in Japan, and I really would love to be over there and visit. I've visited most other countries. I mean, I've been pretty much everywhere else. I've never been to India, but I don't want to go in the summertime. No. But Japan is certainly on my bucket list. I don't have much of a bucket list. I've been fortunate enough to do just about everything. So I know that my work will take me all over the world again. I mean, I've been around the world twice this year. So, and we're in June. We're not even halfway through yet. And with my son out of high school, it's gonna get worse. There's gonna be more because he's taking a gap year and traveling with his old man. Yes. He's gonna. Not only do I not have to pay for college this year, but I get to have my best friend with me on all these trips. So it's pretty great. He really is too. Thank you so much, Jerry. Thank you guys. Thank you guys a few of you guys I've known from a couple other places as well. I did not Instagram you. We talked about that. Was that you that was Instagram? Was it you that said? Yeah. I did not send you that on Instagram, but now I will. No, but it's, and Doc, Zach, pleasure to meet you guys. It's very nice to see you guys. The man from the UK back there, the large man who's most of you guys I've had a chance to speak with, and I appreciate you guys. And it's been wonderful. And thank you all for being out here and listening to my stories and asking great questions and taking pictures and stuff. And you guys are the reason that we get to do what we do. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for coming the whole weekend. It's great. I think that's probably the perfect way to finish it off.